Billionaire faked his own death to escape his wife and child. 6 years of grief, 6 years of lies. Then she found him alive, remarried, and living like royalty. But his dark secret was about to shatter everything. Hello, my beautiful family. Yes, you. You're not just viewers to me, you are the fire that keeps these stories alive. Every comment, every like, every share. You remind me why I do this. To every new soul who has just found this channel, welcome home. You were led here for a reason. If this story is already making your heart race, do me one tiny favor so I know you're with me. Drop "I'm locked in" the comments, hit that like button, and follow. Let's make this family unbreakable. Now, take a deep breath, because tonight's story will leave you furious, heartbroken, and cheering by the end. Let's begin. The coffee in Hallie's hand had gone cold an hour ago, but she couldn't move. She sat frozen at her kitchen table, laptop screen glowing in the dim morning light, staring at a photograph that had just turned her entire world inside out. 6 years. 6 years of grief, therapy sessions, sleepless nights, and forcing smiles for her daughter. 6 years of telling herself she'd survived the worst thing that could ever happen to a woman. She'd been wrong. The photograph showed a man in a tailored suit standing on a yacht deck, champagne glass raised, his arm wrapped around a stunning brunette in a white sundress. The background showed the French Riviera in all its glittering excess. But it wasn't the luxury that made Hallie's blood turn to ice. It was his face. That smile. Those eyes she'd once loved. Harry Hendricks, her dead husband, very much alive. Lily's voice drifted down from upstairs, singing along to some pop song while getting ready for school. 12 years old now. With her father's dark hair and Hallie's stubborn chin, a girl who'd spent half her life believing her daddy was a hero who died too young. Hallie's hands trembled as she clicked through the article. Billionaire entrepreneur Henri Laurent celebrates Mediterranean wedding. The name was different, but the face was unmistakable. There were dozens of photos from what looked like an intimate destination ceremony. The bride, identified as Simone Archambault, gazed up at him with adoration, the same way Hallie had once looked at him. Her phone buzzed. A text from her best friend and the only person who'd kept her sane through the darkest days. Running late for coffee. Be there in 20. Hallie stared at the message, then back at the screen. 20 minutes. She had 20 minutes before she had to pretend to be the put-together woman she'd fought so hard to become. 20 minutes before she had to hide the rage building inside her like a nuclear reactor reaching critical mass. Because in that moment, sitting in her modest rental home with the peeling wallpaper and the refrigerator that hummed too loud, Hallie understood something with perfect clarity. Harry Hendricks hadn't died. He'd escaped. He'd abandoned his family, destroyed their lives, and built himself a shiny new existence on the ashes of her pain, and somehow, he'd gotten away with it. Hallie closed the laptop slowly. Her reflection stared back at her from the darkened screen. Older than she should look at 34. Tired, worn down by single parenthood and working 2 jobs to make ends meet. But underneath that exhaustion, something else flickered to life. Something she hadn't felt in 6 long years. Purpose. Harry thought he was safe. He thought his fake death and new identity had erased his past. He thought Hallie would stay buried in her grief, raising his daughter in obscurity while he sipped champagne on yachts with his new wife. He'd made a mistake. A fatal one. "Mom, I need lunch money." Lily called from the stairs. "Coming, sweetheart." Hallie called back, her voice steady despite the storm raging inside her. She opened her laptop again and began screenshotting every photo, every detail from the article. Then she opened a new browser window and typed, "Henri Laurent, business dealings investigation." If Harry thought she'd stay silent, he didn't know her at all anymore. She wasn't the naive woman who'd believed his lies. She wasn't the broken widow who'd sobbed through his funeral. She was a mother with nothing left to lose and everything to fight for, and she was about to make sure the whole world knew exactly who Harry Hendricks really was. But first, she needed to understand just how deep his deception ran, because Hallie had learned something crucial in her years of solitude. Men who fake their deaths don't do it for love. They do it to hide something much, much darker. The private investigator's office smelled like stale coffee and desperation. Hallie sat across from Marcus Webb, a former detective turned freelancer who specialized in cases the police wouldn't touch. She'd found him through a recommendation from a paralegal friend, Someone who understood that sometimes justice required stepping outside official channels. "You're sure it's him?" Marcus asked, studying the screenshots she'd printed. "I was married to the man for 8 years. I'd know his face anywhere." Marcus leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled. "Faking your own death is serious business. If he pulled it off this cleanly, he had help. Probably expensive help. I don't care what it costs." Hallie's voice was steel. "Give me a week." She left his office feeling lighter somehow, as if sharing the burden made it more bearable. But as she drove home through afternoon traffic, her mind drifted back to when Harry was still Harry, before he became Henri Laurent. Before he became a ghost. The memory hit her without warning, triggered by a song on the radio, their wedding song. They'd met at a charity gala. Harry had been charming, confident, successful. He ran a tech investment firm that seemed to print money. Within 6 months, they were engaged. Within a year, married. Hallie had thought she'd won the lottery. Their apartment had overlooked the city, all floor-to-ceiling windows and modern furniture. Harry traveled constantly for business, but when he was home, he was attentive, romantic. He'd bring her flowers, plan surprise weekend getaways, talk about their future. Then Lily was born, and things shifted. Harry grew distant. His business trips lengthened. Phone calls went unanswered for hours, sometimes days. When Hallie questioned him, he'd smooth it over with expensive gifts and promises to do better. She'd wanted to believe him. God, how desperately she'd wanted to believe. The final months had been unbearable. Harry became paranoid, constantly looking over his shoulder. He started drinking heavily. Once, she'd found him at 3 a.m. in his home office, shredding documents. When she'd asked what was wrong, he'd snapped at her to mind her own business. Then came the call from the police. Harry's car had been found at the bottom of a ravine on a mountain road. No body recovered. The current was too strong, they'd said. It happens sometimes. But his wallet, his phone, his wedding ring, had all been found in the wreckage. The funeral had been surreal. An empty casket, hollow condolences. Lily, only 6 years old, asking when Daddy was coming home. And Hallie, standing in her black dress, feeling like her entire world had been ripped away. She'd cried for months, blamed herself, wondered if she'd pushed him away somehow. If she'd been a better wife, would he still be alive? The song ended, jolting Hallie back to the present. Her hands gripped the steering wheel so hard her knuckles were white. All that grief, all that guilt. And he'd been alive the whole time. Marcus called 3 days later. "You need to come to my office. Now." When she arrived, he had files spread across his desk. Bank records, flight manifests, corporate documents, and photographs of Harry with his new wife. Dating back 7 years. "Your husband didn't just fake his death to escape a bad marriage," Marcus said grimly. "He was running from something much bigger. Henri Laurent, his current identity, owns a luxury hotel chain across Europe. But the money trail tells a different story." He slid a document toward her. Money laundering. Harry's investment firm was a front. He was moving cash for some very dangerous people. When things got hot, he needed an exit strategy. Hallie's stomach turned. And his new wife? Marcus pulled up another file. Simone Archambault, formerly Simone Rousseau, daughter of a known crime family out of Monaco. She didn't just meet Harry after his death. They knew each other before. She helped him stage the whole thing. The room spun. Harry hadn't just abandoned them. He'd been a criminal. And his new wife had been his accomplice from the start. "There's more," Marcus continued. The night of his supposed accident. Security footage shows him meeting someone at a private airfield 200 miles away. He walked onto a plane and flew to Paris. The car crash was staged with a dummy and remote control. Someone torched the evidence. Hallie couldn't breathe. The man she'd mourned, the father she'd told her daughter was a hero, had orchestrated everything. The funeral, the insurance payout, which had been modest but kept them afloat, the sympathy, all of it calculated. "What do you want to do with this information?" Marcus asked quietly. Hallie looked at the files, at the proof of Harry's betrayal laid out before her. She thought about Lily, about the lie her daughter had been living. She thought about every sleepless night, every tear, every moment she'd felt like she was drowning. "I want to bury him," she said. "For real this time. Over the next 2 weeks, Hallie became obsessed. Marcus fed her information in carefully measured doses, each revelation more damning than the last. She'd set up a command center in her bedroom, spreading documents across her bed after Lily went to sleep, piecing together the puzzle of Harry's double life. The money laundering operation had been sophisticated. Harry's investment firm had operated as a front, moving cash for criminal networks across 3 continents. He'd used a technique called layering, moving funds through shell companies in the Cayman Islands, Luxembourg, and Singapore to obscure their origins. The transactions looked legitimate, on paper. Investments in real estate, tech startups, luxury goods, but Marcus had traced the money back to its sources. Drug trafficking, arms deals, human trafficking. Hallie felt sick reading the reports. She'd shared a bed with this man, raised a child with him, and she'd known nothing. "How did I miss it?" she asked Marcus during one of their meetings. He was good at compartmentalizing. Sociopaths usually are. Marcus pulled up another file on his laptop. But here's where it gets interesting. The bribery charges. Harry had been paying off government officials in 4 countries to look the other way. Port inspectors, customs agents, even a senator's aide who'd buried an investigation into his firm's activities. The paper trail showed payments disguised as consulting fees, charitable donations, speaking engagements. When the FBI started closing in, he needed an exit strategy. Marcus explained. That's where Simone came in. The photos made Hallie's blood boil. Simone and Harry at a Monaco casino, 2 years before his staged death. Simone boarding a private plane with Harry's business partner, the same man who'd given a tearful eulogy at the funeral. Financial records showing Simone had purchased the identity documents, bribed the coroner who'd certified Harry's death, arranged the plane that flew him out of the country. She orchestrated everything. Hallie whispered. She's not just his wife. She's his partner in every sense. Her family has connections to organized crime. She gave him access to networks that could make a man disappear. But it was the final piece of evidence that broke Hallie's heart. A series of emails between Harry and Simone, dated 3 months before his death. "The wife is getting suspicious. We need to move up the timeline. What about the kid? She's 6. She'll forget me eventually." Hallie had to leave Marcus's office before she vomited. That night, she sat in her car outside her house for 20 minutes, trying to compose herself. Inside, Lily was doing homework, oblivious to the storm brewing. Sweet, smart Lily, who still kept a photo of her father on her nightstand. When Hallie finally went inside, she found her daughter at the kitchen table, textbook open, but her attention was on her phone. "Mom, can I ask you something?" Hallie's heart stopped. "Of course, sweetheart." Lily turned her phone around. On the screen was the same article Hallie had found, the one showing Harry and Simone at their Mediterranean wedding. Sophie's mom showed this to her, and Sophie sent it to me. She says this guy looks exactly like Dad. Lily's voice was small, scared. "It's crazy, right? I mean, Dad's dead. But Mom, look at him." The moment had arrived sooner than Hallie expected. She'd planned to wait, to have more evidence, to figure out the right words, but Lily's eyes were searching hers, desperate for reassurance that her world wasn't about to collapse again. Hallie sat down across from her daughter and took her hands. "Baby, there's something I need to tell you, and it's going to be really hard to hear." Lily's face went pale. "That's him, isn't it? That's Dad." "Yes." The single word hung in the air like a bomb. Lily pulled her hands away, shaking her head. "But he's dead. We buried him. I go to his grave. There's no body in that grave, Lily. Your father faked his death. He's alive, and he's been living in Europe this whole time." Tears streamed down Lily's face. "Why? Why would he leave us?" Hallie wanted to protect her, to soften the blow, but she'd learned that lies only caused more damage, because he was involved in very bad things, illegal things, and when he was about to get caught, he ran away and started a new life. He chose to abandon us. Did he ever love us? The question shattered Hallie. "I don't know, sweetheart. I thought he did. But the man I thought I knew doesn't exist." Lily stood abruptly, chair scraping against the floor. "I hate him. I hate him so much. I know." "So do I. So do I. What are we going to do?" Hallie looked at her daughter, seeing the same fire in her eyes that she felt burning inside herself. Lily wasn't a little girl anymore. She deserved the truth, and she deserved justice. We're going to make sure everyone knows what he did. We're going to expose him to the whole world. Lily wiped her tears, jaw set with determination. Good. He deserves it. In that moment, Hallie realized Harry had made his biggest mistake. He'd underestimated the two people he'd left behind, and now they were coming for him together. The next morning, Hallie found Lily already awake, sitting at the kitchen table with her laptop open. Dark circles shadowed her daughter's eyes, evidence of a sleepless night. I've been reading about him, Lily said without looking up. Henri Laurent. There are articles everywhere, society pages, business magazines. He's living like a king while we've been scraping by. Hallie poured coffee, her own exhaustion bone deep. Lily, I need you to listen to me carefully. What we're doing is dangerous. Your father has powerful connections and resources we can't even imagine, so we just let him get away with it? No. Hallie sat down across from her. But we have to be smart. That means you go to school. You act normal. You don't tell anyone what we've discovered. Not your friends, not your teachers, no one. Lily's jaw tightened. I'm not a child anymore, Mom. I know. But you're still my daughter, and I need to protect you. Hallie reached across the table. I promise you, we will expose him. But we do it the right way, with evidence so strong he can't deny it or make it disappear. After Lily left for school, Hallie called Marcus. I need everything you can find on Simone Rousseau, her real background, before she became Simone Archambault. 3 days later, they met in his office again. The files he'd compiled were thicker than before. Simone Rousseau is not just connected to organized crime, Marcus began. She's actively involved. Her father, Dominic Rousseau, runs money laundering operations across the Mediterranean. Simone was being groomed to take over the family business when she met Harry. He spread photographs across the desk. Young Simone at exclusive European universities, but always with the wrong crowd. Known criminals, suspected money launderers, men who'd later been arrested for fraud, extortion, and worse. She wasn't just Harry's escape route. She was his business partner long before he faked his death. Marcus pulled up financial records. Look at these wire transfers. Starting 7 years ago, Harry's firm began moving money through accounts controlled by the Rousseau family. They were laundering together. Hallie studied the documents, her anger crystallizing into something colder, more focused. So when the heat got too intense, she helped him disappear, and they continued their operation in Europe under new identities. Exactly. And here's the kicker. Marcus opened another file. The luxury hotel chain they own? It's a front. The hotels are used to launder money from their criminal enterprises, cash-heavy businesses, lots of international transactions. Perfect cover. Hallie felt the pieces clicking into place. Harry hadn't just abandoned his family. He'd traded them in for a more profitable partnership, one where his wife was a co-conspirator instead of an inconvenient liability. Can we prove this? She asked. That's where it gets tricky. Most of this is circumstantial. We need hard evidence. Bank records, communications, testimony from someone on the inside. Marcus leaned back. Or we need to force Harry's hand, make him do something that exposes himself. Over the following weeks, Hallie became methodical. She created a timeline of Harry's criminal activities, cross-referencing Marcus's findings with public records, news articles, and corporate filings. She compiled photographs showing Harry and Simone together before his staged death. She documented every shell company, every suspicious transaction, every connection to known criminals. She opened a secure cloud storage account and backed up everything. Then she made copies, storing them with her attorney, with Marcus, and in a safety deposit box. If anything happened to her, the evidence would still exist. Lily became her unlikely partner in the evenings. While Hallie wouldn't let her daughter see the darkest details, Lily helped organize files, create spreadsheets, and research public records online. It gave them something to focus on together, a shared purpose that transformed their grief into action. Mom, look at this, Lily said one night, pointing to her laptop screen. Henri Laurent is scheduled to speak at a business conference in New York next month about ethical investing and corporate responsibility. The irony was almost funny. Almost. That's perfect, Hallie said, an idea forming. A public event means media coverage, reporters, Witnesses. She contacted a journalist she'd found through online research, someone who specialized in exposing corporate fraud. She sent a carefully worded email with just enough information to pique interest, but not enough to reveal her full hand. The journalist, Rachel Kim, called within 2 hours. "If what you're telling me is true, this is massive," Rachel said. "But I need proof. Real, documented proof, not just allegations." "I have it," Hallie replied. "Bank records, photographs, communications, everything you need to verify the story. Then we meet." "But not at my office. Somewhere. Public. Neutral." They arranged to meet at a coffee shop in the city. Hallie brought copies of the most damning evidence, holding back the originals. Rachel reviewed everything with the sharp eye of someone who'd been burned before by fake stories. "This is real," Rachel finally said, looking up at Hallie with a mixture of shock and excitement. "Do you understand what you're handing me? This could bring down a criminal network operating across 3 continents." "I understand," Hallie said, "but I need you to understand something too. This man destroyed my life. He abandoned his child. He's been living in luxury while we struggled. I don't just want the truth to come out. I want the world to see exactly who Harry Hendricks really is." Rachel gathered the documents. "Give me 2 weeks to verify everything and build the story. Then we go public." Right before his conference appearance in New York, Hallie left the meeting feeling lighter than she had in months. The trap was set. Harry had no idea what was coming. And when it hit, his perfect new life would crumble to dust. Hallie knew it was reckless the moment she booked the flight to Monaco. Marcus had warned her against it. Rachel, the journalist, had practically begged her to wait. Even Lily had looked at her with worry when she'd explained she needed to take a quick business trip. But Hallie couldn't wait anymore. She needed to look Simone in the eye, to see the woman who'd helped destroy her life. Finding Simone wasn't difficult. The woman had a predictable schedule, documented across social media, like breadcrumbs. Every Thursday afternoon, she had lunch at a particular cafe overlooking the harbor, surrounded by other wealthy socialites who had nothing better to do than discuss yachts and vacation homes. Hallie spotted her immediately. Simone sat at a corner table. Designer sunglasses perched on her head. Perfectly manicured hands wrapped around a champagne flute. She was laughing at something her companion said, throwing her head back without a care in the world. Hallie's hands clenched into fists. This woman had helped Harry abandon his daughter, had orchestrated his fake death, had built an empire on blood, money, and lies, and she sat there drinking champagne like she deserved it. Taking a deep breath, Hallie crossed the patio. She stopped directly in front of Simone's table. "Simone Rousseau," Hallie said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "Or should I call you Mrs. Laurent?" Simone's eyes flickered up, assessing Hallie with the cold calculation of a predator evaluating prey. Her companion, a blonde woman dripping in jewelry, looked confused. "I'm sorry, do I know you?" Simone's accent was cultured, European, smooth as silk. "Not yet, but you know my husband, Harry Hendricks." The name hung in the air like a grenade. Simone's expression didn't change, but something shifted behind her eyes. Recognition. And something else. Amusement. "Darling," Simone said to her companion, "would you give us a moment?" The blonde left, curiosity written all over her face. Simone gestured to the empty chair. "Please, sit. You've come all this way." Hallie remained standing. "I know everything. The money laundering, the staged death. Your family's involvement. I know Harry's been alive this whole time. And I know you helped him disappear." Simone took a slow sip of champagne, completely unfazed. "That's quite a story. You should write fiction. I have proof, bank records, photographs of you and Harry together before his supposed death, communications with the coroner who falsified his death certificate. Then take it to the police." Simone's smile was razor sharp. "Oh wait, you can't. Because if any of that existed, you already would have. I'm taking it to the media. In 2 weeks, the whole world will know who you really are. Who Harry really is." Now Simone's smile faded. She set down her glass with deliberate precision and removed her sunglasses. Her eyes were ice blue, hard as diamonds. "Listen very carefully, Mrs. Hendricks. Or is it Miss Cannon now?" You're playing a game you don't understand with people who make problems disappear. Permanently. Are you threatening me? I'm educating you. Simone leaned forward. You think you're the first person to discover an inconvenient truth about my family's business? You think you're special because you were married to Henri once upon a time? His name is Harry. Harry Hendricks is dead. He died 6 years ago. You buried him. You collected insurance money. You moved on with your life. Henri Laurent is someone else entirely. And he has nothing to do with you or your daughter. The mention of Lily made Hallie's blood run cold. Leave my daughter out of this, then leave us out of yours. Simone's voice dropped lower. Go home. Forget what you think you know. Raise your child. Live your quiet little life, because if you push this, you won't just destroy yourself, you'll destroy her too. What does that mean? Simone stood, gathering her purse. It means accidents happen, Mrs. Hendricks. Houses catch fire, cars lose control on mountain roads, young girls disappear walking home from school. The world is a dangerous place for people who ask too many questions. Hallie felt sick. You're threatening my child. I'm stating facts. Now, I have an appointment. This conversation never happened. And you were never here. Simone walked away, heels clicking on the patio stones. She didn't look back once. Hallie stood frozen, her entire body shaking. The threat had been clear, delivered with such casual cruelty it took her breath away. These people weren't just criminals. They were monsters who'd threaten a 12-year-old girl to protect their secrets. She made it back to her hotel room before the panic attack hit. Sitting on the bathroom floor, struggling to breathe, Hallie realized the full scope of what she'd taken on. This wasn't just about exposing Harry's lies anymore. This was about going to war with people who had infinite resources and zero conscience. And Lily was caught in the crossfire. Her phone buzzed. A text from her daughter. Mom, when are you coming home? I miss you. Hallie stared at the message, tears streaming down her face. She'd started this crusade for justice, for revenge, for validation that her pain mattered. But was it worth risking Lily's life? Was exposing Harry worth potentially losing her daughter? She thought about backing down, taking Simone's advice, disappearing back into obscurity. It would be safer, easier, smart, but then she thought about Lily discovering the truth years from now, learning that her mother had known and done nothing. She thought about Harry living his perfect life, never facing consequences. She thought about all the other people he and Simone had hurt, would continue to hurt if no one stopped them. Hallie pulled herself off the bathroom floor and washed her face. Her reflection in the mirror looked haunted but determined. She wasn't backing down. But she needed to be smarter, more careful. She needed to protect Lily while still seeing this through. She texted Marcus. We need to talk. Security measures for Lily, immediately. Then she booked the next flight home. The confrontation had given her something she hadn't expected. Not answers, but clarity. Simone's threats proved how desperate they were, how much they had to lose. And desperate people made mistakes. The intimidation started the day after Hallie returned from Monaco. She was walking Lily to school, a routine they'd maintained since the revelation about Harry. Safety and visibility, Marcus had advised. Stay in public places. Never be alone. At the corner near the school, a black SUV with tinted windows pulled up slowly beside them, matching their pace. Lily noticed first. Mom, that car. The window rolled down just enough for Hallie to see a man in the passenger seat. He didn't say anything, just stared. Then the window rolled up and the SUV drove away. Who was that? Lily asked, her voice small. Nobody, sweetheart. Just somebody lost. But Hallie's hands were shaking as she watched the vehicle disappear around the corner. That afternoon, she found her apartment door unlocked. She knew she'd locked it. She always locked it. Marcus had installed additional deadbolts after Monaco. Heart pounding, she pushed the door open carefully. Nothing was disturbed, nothing was missing. But sitting on her kitchen table was a photograph. A recent one of Lily leaving school, backpack slung over her shoulder, laughing with friends. Someone had drawn a red circle around her daughter's face. Hallie called Marcus immediately, but her hands were shaking so badly she could barely hold the phone. They were in my home. They photographed my daughter. Pack a bag, Marcus said without hesitation. You and Lily are staying in a hotel tonight. I'm calling in favors from some people who owe me. You need protection. By that evening, They were checked into a hotel under a false name. Marcus had arranged for a former police officer to sit in the hallway outside their room. Lily sat on one of the beds, arms wrapped around her knees, looking smaller than she had in years. "This is because of Dad, isn't it?" she asked quietly. Hallie couldn't lie anymore. "Yes, maybe we should stop." Maybe Simone was right. Maybe this isn't worth it. The words cut deep because Hallie had been thinking the same thing. Every maternal instinct screamed at her to back down, to protect her child at any cost. But she sat beside Lily and took her hand. "If we stop now, they win. And they'll keep winning. They'll keep hurting people, destroying lives, because nobody has the courage to stand up to them. But what if they hurt us? Then we make sure we're smart about this. We don't stop, but we're more careful. We have help now. Protection. And we're so close, baby." The article comes out in 1 week. The next 3 days were a nightmare of escalating pressure. Hallie received anonymous calls at all hours, heavy breathing on the other end before disconnecting. Her car tires were slashed in the hotel parking lot. A dead rat appeared in her mailbox at her apartment, with a note that read simply, "Stop." But Harry's tactics weren't limited to physical intimidation. He wielded his wealth like a weapon. Hallie's bank suddenly froze her accounts, claiming suspicious activity that would take weeks to investigate. Her credit cards were maxed out with fraudulent charges. The landlord of her apartment received an anonymous complaint about illegal activities in her unit and started eviction proceedings. Marcus explained it grimly. "He's trying to bankrupt you, isolate you, make it impossible for you to function. It's a common tactic for organized crime. They use their resources to destroy your life systematically until you have nothing left to fight with." Rachel, the journalist, called with bad news. "My editor is getting cold feet. Someone reached out to our parent company's board of directors. There's pressure to kill the story." "Can they do that?" "They can try. But I've been doing this for 15 years. I know how to push back. The story will run. It might just be on a different platform." Hallie felt the walls closing in. Harry's influence reached further than she'd imagined. He wasn't just a criminal. He was connected to networks that could touch every aspect of her life, turn every institution against her, make her look like the problem rather than the victim. That night, Lily found her mother crying in the hotel bathroom. "Mom, we can stop. I don't need revenge. I just need you safe." Hallie wiped her tears and pulled her daughter close. "This isn't about revenge anymore, sweetheart. It's about justice. It's about making sure that people like your father don't get to destroy families and walk away laughing. It's about teaching you that when someone wrongs you, you fight back, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. Are you scared? Terrified? But I'm also angrier than I've ever been. And anger is a powerful motivator." Marcus called at midnight with an update. "I have connections at the FBI. Turns out, they've been building a case against the Russo family for years. When I showed them what you have on Harry and Simone, they got very interested. They want to meet with you. Will that keep Lily safe? It's your best shot. Federal protection is serious. And if you cooperate with their investigation, you're an asset they'll guard carefully." Hallie looked at her daughter, asleep finally on the hotel bed, clutching the stuffed animal she'd had since childhood. The stakes had never been higher. But walking away now would mean Harry won. It would mean Lily learned that bullies with money and power always win. That justice was only for people who could afford it or who weren't afraid of the consequences. "Set up the meeting," Hallie said. "We're finishing this." The dangerous game had reached its apex. Harry thought his wealth and connections made him untouchable, but he'd underestimated one critical factor. A mother protecting her child was the most dangerous force in the world. And Hallie was done being intimidated. The Waldorf Astoria conference hall glittered with Manhattan's elite. Business moguls, investors, and media representatives filled the seats, waiting for Henri Laurent's keynote address on ethical investing. Hallie watched from the back row, her heart hammering so hard she thought everyone could hear it. FBI agents were positioned throughout the room, dressed as conference attendees. Rachel sat 3 rows ahead, camera crew ready. Marcus stood near the side exit. Everything was in place. Harry walked onto the stage to polite applause, looking every inch the successful entrepreneur. Tailored suit, confident smile. That same charm that had once swept Hallie off her feet. He began his speech about corporate responsibility and ethical business practices. And the irony made Hallie's stomach turn. She stood, her movement drawing attention. "Excuse me." Her voice rang out, amplified by the room's acoustics. "Henri Laurent? Or should I call you by your real name?" "Harry Hendricks." The room went silent. Harry's eyes found hers across the crowd, and she watched recognition flash across his face, followed quickly by calculation. "I'm sorry. Do we know each other?" His tone was pleasant, confused, as if addressing a confused audience member. "We were married for 8 years. You faked your death 6 years ago and abandoned our daughter." Hallie walked down the aisle, every eye in the room following her. "You left us with nothing while you started a new life in Europe, built on money laundering and criminal enterprises." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Harry held up his hands, still smiling, playing to the audience. "This is clearly a case of mistaken identity. Security. Could we please? Your real name is Harold James Hendricks," Hallie continued, reaching the front of the room. She pulled out her phone, projecting images onto the large screen behind him, side-by-side photographs of Harry then and Henri now. "You staged your death on March 15th, 2019. Your car was found in a ravine, but you were on a private plane to Paris that same night." Harry's smile faltered. "This is absurd. I've never seen this woman before in my life." "Then explain these." Rachel stood, and more images flooded the screen. Bank records, wire transfers showing millions moving through shell companies, flight manifests, photographs of Harry with known criminals, with Simone Rousseau before his supposed death. "Ladies and gentlemen," Harry addressed the crowd, his voice smooth as silk. "This is clearly a shakedown, a disturbed woman with delusions, trying to extort money from a successful businessman. We've all heard these stories. Is that what you told your new wife?" Hallie's voice cut through his charm. "Simone Rousseau, daughter of organized crime boss Dominic Rousseau. The woman who helped you fake your death, bribed the coroner, arranged your escape. Your partner in laundering money for criminal networks across 3 continents." Harry's composure cracked. "You have no proof of any of this." "Actually, she does." An FBI agent stood, flashing his badge. "Mr. Hendricks, we've been investigating your operations for 6 months. Thanks to Mrs. Hendricks's cooperation, we have everything we need." The room erupted in chaos. Reporters surged forward, cameras flashing. Harry's face drained of color as more agents moved in. "You're lying," he said, but his voice had lost its power. "I'm Henri Laurent. I'm a legitimate businessman. You're a criminal who abandoned his 6-year-old daughter." Hallie stood directly in front of him now, and when she spoke, her voice carried throughout the room. "You built your empire on drug money, arms trafficking, and human suffering. You used shell companies and cryptocurrency to hide your crimes. You threatened my daughter to keep me quiet. But here's what you didn't count on, Harry. You didn't count on me fighting back." She turned to address the cameras now, the media recording every word. "This man is not who he claims to be. Henri Laurent is a fiction. Harry Hendricks faked his death to escape prosecution, leaving behind a wife and child to grieve while he continued his criminal operations with his accomplice, Simone Rousseau. The FBI has evidence of money laundering through his European hotel chain, using techniques like layering and trade-based laundering to obscure the illegal origins of his wealth. He's not an ethical businessman. He's a monster who destroys families and lives without remorse." Harry lunged toward her, and agents immediately restrained him. "You stupid woman," he hissed. "You have no idea what you've done. They'll kill you for this, both of you." "Are you threatening my life and my daughter's life on camera?" Hallie asked calmly. The realization of what he'd just said hit Harry like a freight train. His face went white as reporters recorded every word, every moment of his unraveling. "Mr. Hendricks," the lead FBI agent said, producing handcuffs, "you're under arrest for fraud, money laundering, and conspiracy. You have the right to remain silent." As they led him away, Harry looked back at Hallie one last time. The charm was gone. The mask had fallen. All that remained was rage and the dawning understanding that his perfect life was over. Hallie stood in the center of the chaos, cameras surrounding her, reporters shouting questions. She thought about Lily, watching from the hotel room with Marcus's partner. Her daughter would see this. The whole world would see this. Justice, finally served. "Mrs. Hendricks, a reporter called out. Hallie looked directly into the camera, thinking of every woman who'd ever been betrayed, abandoned, or silenced. "It feels like freedom," she said. The video of Harry's arrest went viral within hours. By morning, every major news outlet was running the story. Billionaire faked death to escape criminal past dominated headlines across 3 continents. Social media exploded with outrage, sympathy for Hallie, and speculation about how deep the corruption ran. Harry's carefully constructed empire began to collapse like dominoes. Within 48 hours, European authorities froze the assets of Henri Laurent's hotel chain. Financial regulators in Luxembourg, Monaco, and Switzerland launched investigations into his shell companies. Interpol issued warrants for Simone Rousseau, who'd vanished the moment Harry was arrested. The FBI's forensic accountants tore through 6 years of financial records, uncovering the full scope of the operation. Harry and Simone had laundered over $400 million through their luxury hotels, using fake invoices, inflated service contracts, and a complex web of offshore accounts. The evidence was overwhelming. Marcus called Hallie 3 days after the arrest. They found Simone. She was trying to board a private plane to Cyprus. She's in custody now, and she's talking, throwing Harry under the bus to save herself. Hallie felt no satisfaction in Simone's capture, only exhaustion. What happens now? Federal prosecution. Both of them are looking at decades in prison. Money laundering, fraud, conspiracy, criminal enterprise. The Rousseau family is scrambling to distance themselves. It's a beautiful mess. The media wanted Hallie's story. Interview requests flooded in from morning shows, documentary producers, book publishers. Rachel's article had opened the floodgates, and now everyone wanted a piece of the woman who'd brought down a criminal empire. But Hallie declined them all. She'd said what she needed to say at the conference. The rest was just noise. Instead, she focused on rebuilding. The FBI had helped her recover funds Harry had stolen when he faked his death, including insurance money he'd fraudulently claimed. It wasn't a fortune, but it was enough. Enough to move out of their cramped apartment into a small house with a backyard. Enough to start a college fund for Lily. Enough to breathe. 2 months after Harry's arrest, Hallie and Lily sat in their new living room, boxes still unpacked around them. News played on the television in the background. Harry's trial date had been set. Legal experts predicted he'd never see freedom again. "Do you want to go?" Lily asked quietly. "To the trial, I mean." Hallie considered it. Part of her wanted to sit in that courtroom and watch Harry face the consequences of his actions, but another part, the part that was tired of living in the shadow of his crimes, just wanted to move on. "No," she said finally. "We don't need to see that. We already won." Lily nodded, relief evident on her face. She'd been in therapy since the exposure, processing the betrayal and anger. Her therapist said she was doing remarkably well, considering. Strong. Like her mother. "Mom, can I ask you something?" "Always." "Do you regret it? Going after him? It was so dangerous. We could have just walked away." Hallie pulled her daughter close. "I used to think about what would have happened if we'd stayed silent, if we'd let him win. And I realized that would have destroyed us in a different way. We would have carried that secret, that anger, forever, at least this way. We fought back. We stood up for ourselves. I'm glad we did it," Lily said softly. "I'm glad the world knows what he really is." 3 months later, Hallie stood in the backyard of their new house, watching Lily play with the neighbor's dog. The girl's laughter rang out, genuine and free, in a way Hallie hadn't heard in years. Her phone buzzed with a news alert. Harry Hendricks sentenced to 35 years in federal prison. Wife Simone Rousseau receives 28 years. Hallie read the headline, then deleted the notification. She didn't need updates anymore. Harry was no longer part of their story. He was just a cautionary tale, a criminal who'd finally faced justice. She thought about the woman she'd been 6 years ago, devastated and broken at a fake funeral. That woman would barely recognize who she'd become. Stronger, fiercer, unbreakable. Lily called out, "Mom, come play with us." Hallie smiled and walked toward her daughter, toward the future they'd fought so hard to reclaim. The shadow of Harry's lies had finally lifted. In its place was sunlight, possibility, and the quiet peace that came from knowing they'd survived the worst. and emerged victorious. Justice hadn't just been served. It had been earned, fought for with courage and determination, and that made all the difference. As she joined Lily in the grass, Hallie realized something profound. Harry had taken 6 years from them, but he couldn't take their future. That belonged to them alone, and they were going to make it beautiful. Thank you very much for watching. Comment below what you thought and what was the best or worst part. Don't forget to subscribe. Until next time.